You've built Watearth into a respected civil engineering firm specializing in sustainable infrastructure. Was there kind of a pivotal leadership moment early on? You did some major projects in Texas, California that kind of helped you to shape and grow your firm. Talk about the beginning stages and how you grew it. What were some of the big transition points or milestones for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I had always worked in water resources and environmental services throughout my career doing various things. And I got to the point, the firm I was with, there weren't further opportunities. I was pretty young at the time, and it's like, I'm ready for something else and more challenges.
As civil engineers, it's our responsibility to be well-rounded. We may not know everything about sustainability or resilience, but we need to know something. We need to be able to try to integrate these into our projects where it makes sense and bring information to our clients about them. In today's episode, I am thrilled to be joined by Jennifer Walker. Jennifer is a licensed professional engineer and founder and CEO of Watearth. And Jennifer is going to talk about how we can become more well-rounded and learn more about resiliency and sustainability and integrate them into our civil engineering projects. She is also going to talk about what it takes to start and grow your own civil engineering firm based on her experience. It's not easy, but it certainly can be rewarding. Now, before we jump in, I wanted to tell you about our AEC PM Connect event. Designed for firm leaders who want to elevate project delivery, build strong teams, and scale with confidence. These events provide an avenue to connect with other project delivery leaders in the industry. Visit aecpmconnect.com and register today. We currently have events in Kansas City and New Jersey with more coming soon. Visit aecpmconnect.com and register today. I'm your host, Anthony Fasano, and this is the Civil Engineering CEO. Let's jump in. All right, now I'd like to welcome our guest onto the show for today. Today, I'm joined by Jennifer Walker. Jennifer is a licensed professional engineer, and she is the founder and CEO of Watearth. Jennifer, welcome to the Civil Engineering CEO.
Oh, thank you, Anthony. It's so lovely to be here.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. So maybe, Jennifer, you can start us off by just telling us a little bit about yourself and the company and, how you decided to start the company. Just give us a little bit of a background.
Yeah, absolutely. So starting with Watearth, we're kind of a weird mix. We're about half engineers, half environmental professionals. We work in the three broad areas of civil engineering, water resources, and environmental services. And our civil engineering is focused on water resources as well as site design, erosion control, and things like sidewalks. And our water resources is very broad and encompasses a lot of my background. It's water, wastewater, and stormwater. And I got into the industry really through, my mom was in school at the time taking physics, and her physics instructor said, I like that you're interested in the environmental field, but you really ought to consider civil engineering. I think it aligns with, your skills in math and other things, and also will open up some additional doors for you where you can still work in environmental, but also do some other things.
That's awesome. And so, I guess just for context purposes, how big is the company? Where are you located? Give our listeners a little background.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're about 20 to 25 staff, and we work throughout the U.S., but our big states are California and Texas, and kind of throughout the Southwest. We do have projects elsewhere, but, primarily I'd say we're a Southwestern U.S. firm.
That's great. So you've built Watearth into a respected civil engineering firm specializing in sustainable infrastructure. Was there kind of a pivotal leadership moment early on? You did some major projects in Texas, California that kind of helped you to shape and grow your firm. Talk about the beginning stages and how you grew it. What were some of the big transition points or milestones for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I had always worked in water resources and environmental services throughout my career doing various things. And I got to the point, the firm I was with, there weren't further opportunities. I was pretty young at the time, and it's like, I'm ready for something else and more challenges. Simultaneously, I had completed a course called permaculture, which is a little bit more geared towards the general public, but it looks at sustainability and other things that people can do to make the world a better place. And so I really wanted to incorporate that more into the work I was already doing. And that was really the launching point of Watearth. That was back in 2008, and the economy was a little bit shaky at the time. I actually ended up doing a lot of training on sustainability topics throughout the country, and that's basically how I ended up being able to work in California in addition to Texas. So there were some pivotal moments, I think, in terms of regulations that were coming online or desire by public agencies, local governments for more sustainable engineering solutions.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, I think regulations can absolutely be a driver. That's or I guess a lot of times regulations can cause, I don't call it a problem, but a challenge for companies that have to deal with them. And there's that you can provide a solution, right? As that services provider, as that subject matter expert, which it sounds like you have. So you focus heavily on green infrastructure at Water, stormwater quality, sustainable hydrology. How would your staff describe your leadership style if I asked them? What do you think they'd say?
Well, I guess we could ask them and see, but I would say in general, I'm pretty democratic in terms of I'm not dictatorial, and I think I'm easy to work with, but also fairly demanding for excellence. So I do like to be, where staff have the capabilities, like step back and let people have opportunities to really grow their career.
That's great. So you have high expectations, but you kind of step back and let people achieve them, through their work, kind of for the most part. That's
Yep,
great.
exactly.
So I know you have a commitment to diversity. You're a certified SBE, WBE, DBE. Talk about your, interest in diversity, your company culture, collaboration. Talk a little bit about your philosophy around building the culture.
Yeah, for sure. Well, there's actually been studies done that show that when folks are bilingual, which I'm not, I am learning a couple different languages right now, but when folks are bilingual, they actually can process information better. So there's, that and different viewpoints really provides a basis for, having a diverse team can help find better solutions. But generally we're looking to bring people on board that resonate with our mission. And our mission mirrors my personal mission of really why I'm here on this planet, in this world, and that is to help people, communities, and the environment. And so, regardless of person's skills, background, capability, origin, if they don't resonate with that mission, they're just not going to be a good fit for our team. If they resonate with that mission, and obviously they have the skills and the characteristics to go along with it, it's going to be, a really great rewarding fit for them and other members on the team.
That's great. Yeah, I totally agree with that. We have a similar mindset here. I think the diversity gives you a lot of opportunities to learn from different people, different backgrounds, different styles, and that can be very valuable when you're servicing your clients because you can kind of bring more to the table, if you will, and have varied solutions. And so I think it makes it a great place to work when you build it in that way. So, Jennifer, I want to ask you to talk about modeling technology. You do a lot of work in this space. I did a lot of stormwater work when I was practicing. I remember getting involved with the HEC models, the HEC RAS, different models that are out there. Talk about how modeling technology is evolving in the field of civil engineering, particularly in water resource management.
Yeah, well, that's an excellent question. I started my career, we had computers, obviously, but, at the time, not everybody at the company I worked with, we didn't have computers at our desk. We had enough computers that anybody who wanted to work on them could go work on them. And because I started in water resources doing modeling, I was, pretty much on one of the group computers all day. But at that time, there was, HEC RAS had come about, HEC HMS, and those are hydrology and hydraulics programs that are kind of Windows-like or Windows-based environment. But before that, there was the old HEC 2 and HEC 1, which I guess there were like cards, and, it was basically DOS-based. It's interesting you brought this up because there are still those models out there that are DOS based. We have a project right now, and we requested models from FEMA, the effective models to use as a basis. Not only were they DOS-based Tech 2, they were in a PDF format. So,
Oh, wow.
that's, of course, we'll work through those challenges and recreate in HEC-RAS, but things have just gotten so much easier. I'd say that the item that hasn't changed overall is you've got to put the right data in to get the right information out and know how to interpret it. So technology has gotten really amazing. So, we can do so much with GIS, have the visualization, the background, develop the modeling parameters. On the water modeling side, I started with the old KY pipe, which my supervisor at the time went to like a training class on it. And we used to kid him that he went to modeling school, which I guess that's the engineering humor for you. But, that also was DOS based. And now everything, many decades later, everything is much more detailed. There's calibration features built in. I'm sure we'll see in the upcoming years, more and more AI features built into the models as well. But at the end of the day, we've got to be able to, as engineers, understand that we're putting the right data in and then interpret the results that are coming out of the model. Do they make sense? Are they realistic? Recently I had someone tell me, well, the numbers in the spreadsheet are right. Well, yeah, the numbers in the spreadsheet are right, but there's something off with the formula because the results don't make sense. So we need to retain the skills to be able to do that. And, as we integrate AI more and more into the profession, just make sure that we're also using that human intelligence and that engineers were growing and evolving.
Yeah, I think a couple of important things I want to just reinforce there that you said, because one of them kind of struck home for me when I was doing a lot of stormwater design as an engineer. I mean, my manager used to tell me, garbage in equals garbage out, right? So,
Yeah.
like, you could have the best software in the world, but if you're putting in the wrong information or not good information, you're going to get bad output. And so, I think that is important in today's world because there's more people that rely more on AI and more on these programs as opposed to some of the stuff that used to be done by hand or just, in different methods, different ways to do it, or different double checks, if you will. But I also think what you said there at the end is really important too, is that as civil engineers, if someone were to give you a printout of the answers, you need to be able to say, this looks way off, right? Like something isn't right about this. Like we need to revisit the model because the flood elevation can't change, 5 feet from when we got the map, whenever it was ago to now. Like something is not right here. So I do think if you're listening as a civil engineer, it's important to leverage the technology that's out there. I think it could help you to be more productive and all that stuff is great. But I also think you have to have some quality checks in place. I think you have to be really smart about inputting the right information into these programs. We do a lot of project management training at EMI, and we always talk about, a static schedule for your project versus a dynamic schedule. And you can use a PM software and you could build a really nice dynamic schedule. But the problem is you still need to build it in the software the right way and put the inputs the right way. And if you don't, you're going to be stuck with a static schedule in this high powered software. So again, I think for those of you listening, definitely leverage technology. It's very valuable. We have some great tools in civil engineering. But you do have to put the right information in, and you do have to kind of have that gut feel for what ballpark of an answer should I be in, right? Where should we end up, at least so I can double check it and make sure that it's not totally far off. So I think that those are some things that we really need to consider.
Yeah, and I think early on, people just might not have that skill, but you want to think critically. Do your results make sense? Why is this happening a certain way? And you will build that skill as you grow your career. There's sort of the 10,000 hour rule.
Yeah.
You might be able to have sort of that blink of, yes, this makes sense. No, it doesn't once you get to a certain point, but really try to think critically about the results rather than just passing them along.
Yeah. And I think for some of you that are leaders in civil engineering, your mentoring and guidance of your professionals will help them to kind of build that wisdom, build that knowledge over time to get them to feel better about that. All right. So you're someone who teaches nationwide, you contribute to regional infrastructure planning conferences. What would you say is the most important skill set, or one of the most important skill sets that civil engineers need today to stay relevant in the world we're in today?
Well, that's a really good question. I think and it's probably something they don't teach us too much in school. And, I don't do as much training as I did early on, but I still present at conferences and, webinars and things like our podcast today. But I think the softer skills, the communication, the emotional intelligence, anybody who got into engineering is either really like resilient, perseverant, a hard worker, or they're just naturally very smart and talented at these types of skills that are needed on the scientific and math side, basically. But there aren't that many courses that teach you the business side of things, how to manage a project, how to communicate. So those are really important skills that will help you succeed in the world.
Yeah, and for those of you out there that want to build those skill sets, again, I would come back to mentoring, right? Spending time with your managers, with leaders in your organizations, asking questions of them. I know for me, I tried to volunteer where I could to attend maybe like planning board meetings or client meetings. Maybe they didn't have the budget to bring me and pay me for it, but I would just try to go on my own here and there where I could because I wanted to absorb it. I wanted to learn about it. So, I think these are skills that you can learn and you can polish. Joining Toastmasters for public speaking skills can really help you with speaking or confidence building. But it's also nice to go to these meetings and see your boss presenting to a client, right? Or some of the interactions that they have. Because that's what's really going to help you build the skills that I think Jennifer's talking about, which is those non-technical skills. It's not something where you're going to read a book and say, oh, okay, I could do that type of thing, right? You're going to have to really get out there and push yourself a little bit.
Yeah, the other thing that I look for is proactiveness. So, making recommendations as opposed to like asking, what should I do? Based on what do you think you should do? Just that proactivity and, being able to leverage yourself again as AI gets more integrated into the industry, really leveraging ourselves to be high level thinkers and be able to make those recommendations and move things forward is extremely helpful.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I mean, if someone on my team comes to me and says, Anthony, we've got a problem on this project, but I think we have a solution. What do you think about this? Right. It's a lot different than if someone just comes to you and says, oh, Jennifer, we got this problem. We're stuck type of thing. Right. So maybe like thinking through it a little bit, brainstorming a little bit, and coming to the table with some solutions, I think is a really good approach. I mean, definitely for engineers in general, right? Because we need to solve problems, but I think
Yeah.
just to grow your career as well, and you want to be a leader, you need to be able to think through problems and challenges and come up with different ideas and scenarios. So, Jennifer, you work a lot again in sustainability, resilience. What are some practical steps that civil engineers can take to try to incorporate sustainability and resilience into everyday designs, especially when they're dealing with tight budgets and the clients are focused on doing things fast? What can you offer in that regard?
Yeah, I mean, in general, I think first and foremost, we want to look at protecting, the majority of our projects are for local government. And we really want to look at protecting the public. So, for example, if you're working on a floodplain project, if it's a private developer project, you're encroaching into the floodplain fill. Make sure not only are you meeting the regulations, but you don't want to cause impacts. That's potentially a legal issue, but it's also making things worse for the community. So that's one thing you can do on any kind of project, even if there's really no budget or opportunity to incorporate anything that's sustainable or resilient, is make sure you're protecting the public. The second thing is, and you'll see this, I'm LEED and Envision sustainability certified, incorporating any kind of sustainable elements or resilient elements on at the beginning is a lot more effective and cost effective. The further you get into the project, the more it increases cost to add in items that may be deviated. So, starting from the planning stage through design, if you get to 60% design, even 90%, you can still incorporate items, but they're going to increase the cost because you're having to redesign and you haven't been able to really think about the whole system overall. So I think those are the two most important things if you're working on a project that doesn't specifically have a sustainability or resilient message. You can be aware of, what's rainfall projected to look like, what are the temperatures going to look like over the lifespan of this infrastructure, and can we incorporate that in? Realistically, a lot of communities or private clients might not want to pay for additional analysis related to climate change resiliency, but think about it and whether or not you should add a little bit of a contingency.
Yeah, that's great. And I think too, just thinking as a civil engineer, you want to provide value to your clients and the community. And I think if you can be educated on resilience and sustainability and maybe, have the forethought at the early stages of the project to offer up some potential design benefits or design options that would include sustainability and resiliency, to me, that's a way of driving more value for your clients, right? Because now their project can be more sustainable, more resilient, which probably can save them money in the long term for sure. And that's something that I always felt as a civil engineer is a responsibility of ours, is to be well-rounded and not just say, oh, I only do stormwater, right? Or I only do, you know, pavement design. I don't really know anything about resiliency or sustainability. No, I mean, we all can learn a lot from the resources that are out there. And any project, regardless of what kind of project it is, can have some kind of sustainability or resilience factors built into it. And I just think if you are bringing those to the table early on, whether you're serving a private client or a public client, you're bringing more value to the table for them. And you're probably going to make their project more successful for the long term, right? And even if it takes a little bit more time now. All right. So Jennifer, the last question that I have to ask you is, a lot of civil engineers contact us all the time and tell us that they're going to want to start a company of their own in the future. And so for those kind of entrepreneurial civil engineers out there, they may want to, create their own organization. What advice do you have for them based on your journey with Watearth? What can you share with them?
My biggest advice would be that I wish I knew back in 2008 was number one, prioritize taking care of yourself. Your health and well-being. And I mean, I haven't had major health issues or anything, but just in general, your health and well-being, I think, is the most important thing, and your business success will flow from that. It's extremely easy when you start up a company to, put in 80, 100-hour insane weeks, and it's extremely easy. Many entrepreneurs, the other business groups that I'm involved in, many entrepreneurs do that and they don't get themselves out. So maybe it's okay for a short while, but we always want to be thinking about leveraging ourselves, delegating, letting go, building the team. If you're going into it to be like a solo consultant, that's a little bit different, and then you can manage your workflow. But if you're looking to, grow a business, manage a team, that's the most important advice I can give. It all kind of follows from there.
Yeah, and I would second that just from my own experience as an entrepreneur and a business owner here at EMI. It is very easy to kind of push through those long weeks and just say, keep pushing through it and, I'll get it done. And, over time, though, that can definitely wear on you and it can tire you out. And I think Jennifer makes a good distinction, is that you kind of got to make a decision. Do you want to be kind of a solo consultant where you can have a real good, control over the number of projects you take and the number of hours you work? Or do you want to grow something larger where you're going to have to hire people, have a team of people? And what does that timeline look like so that you make sure you have enough money to make those hires, and not burn yourself out and build it the right way? So some really good advice there. So once again, Jennifer Walker. Jennifer is a licensed professional engineer. She is the CEO and founder of Watearth. And Jennifer, I want to thank you so much for sharing your story here and spending some time with us on the Civil Engineering
Oh,
CEO.
it's been so much fun, Anthony. My pleasure. And thank you so much for doing this for the community.
Oh, you bet. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Jennifer. She is dynamic. What she's built is awesome. And I really love what she talked about in terms of being a well-rounded civil engineer. We need to do that. We need to bring that value to the table for all of our projects. And learning about sustainability and resilience can help us do just that. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to our channel here. We do put out videos like this on a weekly basis to help engineers become better managers and leaders. I'll see you next week.